Subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support. Vikir and Ayan continued to bathe in the waters of the hero spring. Lucky man, Ayan soon reveals to Vikir that she knew that those merchants were taking an excessive amount of profits. She had a vague idea, so it was a good chance that they used this chance to get back at them. If Vikir hadn't done it, Ayan would have. Vikir closes his eyes with a smile, saying that he understood her intentions. But Ayan was feeling embarrassed as her face started to blush heavily. She tells Vikir to not laugh at her as she genially knew about what the merchants were doing, and that she knew for a fact that those diamonds were more expensive than corn in the empire. Since she brought up the topic of corns, Vikir questions her about how much more expensive they were compared to the diamonds she sold. Ayan stutters but says 20 corn. She soon changes her answer to 30, but Vikir tells her she was still wrong, and finally reveals the number of corn she can get with 1 diamond. A little cute rabbit is seen floating in the waters as well, Netflix and chill style. What? Ayan screamed out loud. She was shocked at the amount she could have bought with the diamond after Vikir revealed the truth to her, but she immediately covers her mouth, still calling Vikir a slave, and told him that she knew that. She says that the login within the empire is strange. Where would they even use that stone? She questioned Vikir. Vikir looks at her and tells her that it didn't matter. He then changes the topic. My name or slave? He asked Ayan. Between the two, which do you want to call me by? He tells Ayan that he didn't like to keep things ambiguous. Ayan took a moment to think about what she should call Vikir by. She pauses for a moment in silence. She then moves closer to Vikir, to the point that she was right in front of him. This is it, everyone. Comment below what's gonna happen. You don't like ambiguity, right? Ayan asked as she stood in front of our boy. She places her finger onto Vikir's lips, telling him that she was gonna make things clear. This causes our boy to be taken aback for a moment. I don't want to call you slave or Vikir, said Ayan as she looks at Vikir with innocent eyes and a blushing face while the waters of the spring drip down her body slowly. She pulls her face closer to his, whispering to Vikir, what I want you call you is. But a bunch of kids appear suddenly behind her. They jump with joy and laugh out loud as Ayan was stunned and embarrassed. The kids come up to Ayan and greeted her as Commander Ayan. They also called out to Brother Vikir. Ayan looks at them and questions them about how they managed to get here, but the kids didn't bother to answer her. Instead, they just wanted her to play with them together in the spring. Vikir watches from the back once again, thinking about how if it's neither his name nor slave, then how does Ayan want to treat him? Our boy Vikir is dense like a rock. You rascals, shouted Ayan as she splashes the waters. She tells the kids that if they enter the spring, its efficacy will reduce by half. Vikir cuts in and repeats what Ayan said to him. He tells her, didn't someone say a true Balak wouldn't be stingy regarding such things? The kids hid behind Vikir and agreed to what he said. They even went as far as to call Ayan a stingy commander. Ayan couldn't talk back to Vikir as he had used her own words against her. Hun appears as well with 2 other little girls by his side. He tells Ayan that they were here based on the matriarch's command. Due to the drug side effects brought upon by the merchants, the matriarch had told the sick children to go into the hero's spring. Ayan could only recall her mother's cheeky smile. She thought about how she wanted to make a fool out of her. Ahem, said Hun, which catches Vikir's attention as he turns to look at him. Hun shyly thanks Vikir for helping his younger sister with the merchant. It was the cute little girl that wanted to trade a larvae for a glass orb. She smiles and thanks Vikir as well for his help. Hun then takes the chance to apologize to Vikir about misunderstanding him this whole time. Vikir simply gave him the bombastic side-eye before replying. Yeah, was the only word that Vikir said to reply to both of them. This leaves Hun stunned and silent. He then bursts out in anger, yelling at Vikir that he and his little sister had come here to apologize, and all Vikir said was yeah. Vikir continues to chill in the water. He tells Hun that he has too much anger inside of him. Ayan watches the 2 boys talk to one another. She showed a relief expression on her face as Vikir had finally become a part of the tribe, and that the tribe members were slowly accepting him as one of their own. She continues to think about how there would still be a lot of time to continue what she tried to do. Comment below if you are jealous of our boy right now. She then calls out to Vikir, cheers to you for becoming an official Balak member, Ayan announced out loud as she stands in front of him, posing with a bright smile on her face. The kids in the back cheered on as well. 2 years has passed by. A barbarian could be seen getting his face being rearranged by a powerful blow straight to his face. The barbarian falls back onto his ass as another member towers over him. Other members were alarmed to see the interaction as the barbarian continued to sat on the ground with a bloody nose. "You're more of a crybaby than I thought," said a voice as a familiar fist is seen pointing outwards. It was our boy Vikir van Baskerville with a ponytail now. He had finally reached the age of 17 years old. He relaxes his fist as he called out to Ahun, "One more time," shouted Ahun as he covers his nose. The other members came to his side in order to help him get up, but Vikir dismisses his request, telling Ahun that their sparring ends here today. As Vikir continued to walk away from Ahun and into the forest, Ahun shouts at him about whether he was running away. Vikir tells him that he was simply taking a stroll. Ahun calls Vikir an annoying bastard, while telling the others that Vikir had become more monstrous after his body had recovered. The other members mentioned that they had heard that Vikir's marksmanship is on par with Commander Iron recently. The other member questioned how they could compare Vikir with Commander Iron. He tells them that he can hit Ahun's nose too and make it bleed, but Ahun tells them that he didn't get hit, which surprises the tribe members. Ahun explains to them that Vikir's fist didn't hit him, he had just stopped it in front of his face. Vikir is slowly becoming One Punch Man. This revelation brings a shock to the tribe members' face as they soon realized something. Vikir had managed to make Ahun's nose bleed from the wind's pressure caused by his fist. Vikir could be seen sweating all over as he continued to breath hard. He looks up at something, saying that he could do it perfectly now. The sixth technique, Vikir can perfectly bear the sixth fang. 6 holes that looked like they were drilled into the huge wall could be seen as Vikir stood below them. Vikir knew that there's still a long way to go before achieving the 10th technique. He finds it already impressive that he managed to get to the 6th technique at 17, which is formidable growth. The almighty Beelzebub sword continues to screech out loud. Vikir also has 6 mana circles within him. With this, he can be a high-rank graduator. Vikir releases his sword ability, thinking that including the river Styx his blessing, the demonic sword, Beelzebub, the usage of the marksman and assassination techniques he learned from the Balax. Vikir could now go up against the highest-ranked graduator. Our boy has fully transformed himself into a member of the Assassin's Creed. He looks back at the forest, thinking about how it has already been 2 years since he had set foot into the deep forest. Looking back at it, Vikir wonders if he was bidding goodbye to the Balax once he was done preparing. Bakira could be seen playing around with a butterfly. Vikir looks at some deep track marks etched into the ground. He determines that the tracks were from the deep forest's snake Mashusu. Our waifu Ayan had grown up too. She now has long hair and a different hairstyle. Comment below which version of Ayan you like, the short hair or long hair version. Vikir continues to explain that the snake was the large and ancient one. Vikir tells her that if they could catch this, the food would be settled for the village for at least 4 days. Ayan continues to repeat the same words, "I see," to Vikir regardless of what he said. This causes him to look back at her and thought about something. He asks Ayan if she was thinking about something else while they were hunting. Ayan blushes hard after being caught, but she tells Vikir that she wasn't. She quickly changes the topic, telling Vikir that another hunting group wanted her to ask him about something. As she reached for that something from Bakir's saddle, Vikir continued to think that she was definitely hiding something from him. Ayan reveals a dagger in her hand that had a certain symbol on it. She tells Vikir that the hunting group brought a dagger from an imperialist who trespassed the deep forest. She then asks if he knew anything about this emblem. Vikir looks at the dagger and tells her that he does know it. It was a famous emblem. The emblem belongs to an extremely famous clan, called Leviathan, a significant clan that is part of the 7 Imperial clans along with the Baskerville clan, the Iron-Blooded Sword clan. Ayan explains to Vikir that the hunting group thought it might have been someone's dagger from the mercenary group they massacred 2 years ago, but thankfully, it wasn't. But one thing was bugging Ayan. It was that in various places around the headwaters, they poured a red liquid from a glass bottle and retreated. The hunting group caught someone, but they had ingested a hidden poison in their mouth and died. The only thing that was left behind was that dagger. Vikir continues to inspect the dagger in his hand, but Ayan tells him that there was more. She wore a nervous expression on her face as she tells Vikir that there was something she wanted to ask him. "Don't you want to return to your hometown, Vikir?" was the question that Ayan asked him point blank. Vikir questions Ayan about why she was suddenly asking him about that. Even wearing a weird expression while asking it, Ayan touches her fingers together nervously. A sweat drop drips down her face as she tells Vikir that she doesn't like secrets or lies, and that he should tell her. Ayan reveals to Vikir that there was another imperialist who came to the deep forest, and that Ayan believes that their goal was Vikir. Vikir received a shock upon the sudden revelation from Ayan. She looks at him with a worried face, pausing for a moment before revealing another painful information. She finally reveals to him that a certain waifu had came to the deep forest. Ian continues to tell Vikir the honest truth. 2 years ago, when he had fought the madam up until now, that certain waifu, together with a search party, came to investigate the deep forest. Ian believes that she was looking for traces of Vikir. She didn't dare to look Vikir in the eyes as she asked him if he was going to go with her. Ian's thoughts started to go haywire. She wonders if Vikir will hate her because she hid this information up till now. What would she do if he says that he'll go with her? Should I stop him from going by using the tribe's rules? These were the thoughts that ran through her mind as Vikir stood there silently. Would that even work? Was the final thought she had as Vikir finally started to open his mouth. I won't go back, said Vikir with a stern look on his face. Silence came over Ian after hearing those words from Vikir. She stutters her words as she asked Vikir if it was true. He tells her yeah. Our waifu's face shined bright like a diamond. She hugs Vikir with joy, telling him that Vikir isn't leaving. Meanwhile, Vikir thinks about how he thought the Empire knew that he was alive, but it seems like they don't. Vikir needed to return once he was able to perfectly hide his power from Hugo without being noticed, and then he thought about the woman that Ian had mentioned. He wonders if Ian was referring to Camus Morgue. He continues to wonder if she has not yet forgotten that he had saved her, or is it a part of a diplomatic event. But seeing how the Baskerville clan gave permission for the Morgue search party to enter the deep forest, means that their alliance is still strong. Vikir wondered about if the two families form a bond through his supposed death. Vikir then decides that he should go investigate what's happening outside the deep forest soon, but a sudden appearance of a big fat ugly fish disrupts Vikir's thoughts. But Ian and Vikir were shocked to see its sudden appearance beside them. The giant fish lands right in front of both of them with a loud impact. Water began to spill from out of its mouth as it tries at best to breath. A lungfish, said Ian with a perplexed look. She states that seeing as how it jumped out of the river, it seems like the rainy season will come soon, judging from its size. This year's rainy season might be long, but Vikir tells her to wait as he spots something. He wonders what that arrow-looking thing is that was poking out of the ugly fish. They decided to slice the fish like sushi to find out what it was from the inside. They were surprised to see a skeleton holding what looks like a spear from inside of the fish. Ian looks at the skeleton and figured that it was a Lococo bastard based on the clothing. Since he stabbed the fish with an arrow and there are traces of resistance, it seems that the Lococo bastard was quite surprised after being eaten. She explains to Vikir that a lungfish was a stupid beast that eats dead things, but this was a little strange to her. Vikir states that the Lococo bastard might have been very weakened to the point where the lungfish thought it was a corpse. Ian then questions why would such a weak person be hunting. Vikir looks at her and answers her question with a question. What if their tribe's situation is that bad? He continues to tell her that something might have happened within the deep forest, and that it was not a bad idea to investigate. After walking a far bit distance, Vikir and Ian were taken back as they witnessed something that causes Ian to shriek. The scene before them was like from hell. Dead bodies covered with red marks could be seen around the Lococo village that Vikir and Ian had stumbled across. They wondered if all the Lococo warriors were dead. Vikir inspects the dead Lococo warriors. He sees that they had signs of vomiting and diarrhea, along with red spots, which he soon realizes what it was. Ian then calls out to Vikir and tells him to look over there. She explains to Vikir that it was way past the time to eat, but there were no signs of fire towards Te Lococo's village. Human skeletons could be seen being hanged around the trees as if it was a Halloween decoration. The Lococo village could now be seen, but it was filled with dead silence with no signs of life. Vikir and Ian along with Bakira were now strolling through the deserted village. Vikir notes that it was strange. There were no signs of life here. Vikir notices that based on the number of weeds, it's been a while since this place has been looked after. Ian questions whether the Lococo tribe had moved somewhere else just as she opens the curtains to one of the tents, but as soon as she does, a whole bunch of flies came swarming out of it. A small dead body is seen hugging the bigger body deep within the tent. Ian shouts at Vikir that there was a corpse inside the tent. Vikir tells her that there was also one over here. He looks at all the dead bodies that were scattered around the village. The corpses in the village and the red spots seemed familiar to him. Before he had regressed, there was an epidemic that spread throughout the deep forest around this time. It was called the Red Death. It was a first-class infectious disease that killed almost all the barbarians and species alike. Red spots appeared all over one's body along with vomiting and diarrhea, and due to the lethargy and pain, they become a cripple and die slowly. The infection spread so unusually quickly that it spread past the Empire's border. Ian tells Vikir that they need to quickly leave this place. She tells him that this was a curse, a god's curse. Vikir tells her not to worry since it was an infectious disease. Ayan becomes more alarmed after hearing that as she tells Vikir that it meant that this was more serious. The two of them continue to argue throughout the village. Vikir tells her to calm down since it wasn't that contagious. Ayan continues to wonder if it really wasn't a curse. Vikir then tells her that if she was scared she could go back first, but Ayan was worried about him about dying after being cursed. Then I die, said Vikir. Ayan screams at him after hearing that reply. Who said you can go ahead and die? Her face was pissed off. A true waifu. Vikir thought that it was him obviously. Vikir went on to state that from the number of corpses, it seems like the whole Lokoko tribe wasn't annihilated. They had probably moved somewhere else, leaving the dead and sick here. He then tells Ayan that he was going to take some of the usual things in their barracks, so Ayan could go first and rest somewhere. She looks at him with concern while thinking that Vikir really isn't sensitive at all, but a chill went down her spine. She turns to see what it was that sent shivers down her spine. She lets out a horrifying scream that even caused Vikir to sweat a bit as he turned to see what had happened. What is it, Ayan? Said Vikir as he walks over to her. Ayan had dropped to the ground out of fear. She tells him with tears in her eyes that it was the curse. She points her trembling finger towards a certain direction in the village. She turns to Vikir and tells him that here was a cursed child. We need to run away, Vikir, shouted Ayan. She tells him to go first and that she would follow right after. But all of a sudden, Ayan yells out that her legs got a cramp. But our boy isn't a simp. He ignores her and moves towards the so-called cursed child. He kneels in front of her to inspect her. Judging from the child's appearance, Vikir noted that she didn't look like she's from the Lokoko tribe. She's about 5 years old too. The cursed child was startled to see Vikir up close. Vikir then notices that there was a pile of rocks with a flower near it. He deduces that she was mourning someone's death. Who are you? Asked Vikir to the cursed child. But the child remained silent for a moment before answering. Lokoko, slave, kitchen maid, the cursed child said. Vikir figured that she was a slave of the Lokoko tribe. What's your name? Vikir continued to ask. Pomerian, she answered, based from her reply. Vikir figured that her name was an Imperial name, and wondered if she was an Imperial child who was captured by the Lokokos. But her answer wasn't complete. La Baskerville was the word she intended to end her sentence with when she told Vikir her name. Those two words alone set Vikir spiraling. His entire world had turned upside down as horror filled his very soul. Unable to believe what she had just said, Vikir questions her about what she just said. With her cute little finger pointed upwards, she points back to herself. Pomerian, La Baskerville, was her name as her red eyes were revealed amongst her messy hair. Did we all just get a little sister? Comment below what you think of our new family member. Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.